this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. We have another exciting episode for you, and I'm sorry for you guys that want me to grow some greens. Today we are growing fruit. You know why? Because I am at the home of Fruitful Trees. I would say the Fruitful Trees YouTube channel is the best channel that you could go to for growing in South Florida as well as other tropical fruits. Paul and all the amazing interviews and people he visits, he has the most information on the tropical fruits that I would say online because he goes all over. He just doesn't interview one guy. He has so many friends in South Florida. It is absolutely insane. Actually, he goes to North Florida too. Nonetheless, we are actually here at his place. I've known Paul for like 27 years now. And this is Paul's house. He bought this house 11 years ago. And actually, well, before this, he's in another house that I visited. And I think before that, he was in a condo that actually helped him out start his first garden. Although he did have some fruit trees planted even before I got there. But we dig up his pavers and we put in a garden. Actually, I'll put a link down below to that video. Anyways, we're here so many years later. He's been in this property 11 years. He has established basically food or fruit tree forest here. Basically, Paul grows 80% of what he eats in his yard. And that's what he wants for everybody here in South Florida, to grow the majority of the food you eat in your yard. And Paul knows exactly how to do it because he has been doing this for not just the 11 years he's been here, but even on his other properties before he moved to this property. Paul is so into growing food, he actually bought the house a couple doors down. So this lot is, I think, a quarter acre. The other lot, a few doors down, is a third acre. So he has it planted out in fully grown fruit trees. And then, of course, for some extra income, he rents out the house. But he's like, in the lease, it says, you know, hey, you have to let me come and plant my fruit trees and stuff, you know? So that's the way to do it, guys. Get an income and grow fruit. And then even then, you know, he grows a lot of things and shares a lot of fruit tastings on his YouTube channel. And then people like, Paul, where can I get the, you know, lemon meringue mango, or where can I get this mango? Because he tasted all kinds of mangoes with actually his buddy that lives across the street, Rom. And then they actually send fruit all over. So if you never experienced these fruits, right, I'll tell you guys straight up, and it's hard to convey this through the video. Like if you guys buy mango to the store, you'll think, oh, that mango that Paul has tastes just like the store. Actually, Paul and I gave a talk actually yesterday at the Mango Festival comparing a store-bought mango to a homegrown mango. It's like twice as better on the brick scale. And the flavors are incredible. So yeah, he'll ship you guys mangoes too. So anyways, what we're gonna do in this video for the first time is we're gonna get Paul, I'm gonna be behind the camera, we're gonna be walking around, and Paul's gonna be showing you guys all his trees and some of the specific things you need to know so you can grow fruit trees in a small space in a standard residential house like most of you guys probably live in. All right, so let's get Paul in here and have him give us a private tour of his fruit forest. All right, so now we're here with the man, Paul. And Paul, what's going on with your house, man? How come like you got all these fruit trees in your yard? Why do you just start planting your own food?
Well, I tell everybody when I grow foods, what's your goal? Or I ask them, what's your goal? Make sure you have a goal. My goal is I want to know where my food's coming from, and I want to have the highest quality, best tasting food as possible. The only way or the best way to make that happen is to grow it yourself, or at least know somebody who's doing that. So I grow my food for that reason mainly. There are some other goals people have of growing food, but that's my goal, is to know where it's coming from and get the highest quality food. And the most efficient way to do that, I want to have trees that are going to feed me all throughout the year, not just for one season. So I don't have one type of tree, one variety of that tree. I have many different varieties of one particular tree to try to expand the season. So that's really important as well.
Cool, so what are your favorite varieties of fruit trees to grow here in Florida that are easy, Paul, for people that don't want to have to spray chemicals or pesticides or anything like that?
That's a good question. People think mango is the most common, easily thing to grow, but they're not. There's a controversy if they need to spray or not to get a good crop. But a good crop from a commercial standpoint versus a good crop from a personal place might be two different things. I don't need a commercial sized crop, but I would still like to get it. So mangoes might not be the best thing, but it's not only fruit trees. My Meringue trees give me food all year. But from a fruit standpoint, mangoes and avocados are the two things that commonly grow here in South Florida that are the easiest things to grow. Mangoes and avocados. I have star apple, which is pretty easy. I have Sapodilla is another fruit that's really easy to grow, but it grows much slower. Mamey Sapote is a good tree to grow, but it grows big. So that's the other thing, is you want to look at how much space the tree's going to take versus how much fruit it's going to give Also to consider is how long is it going to take to give fruit. So those are the things to consider to see if it's worth it for your situation. My neighbor is about 10 to 15 years older than me. So he grows as well. But we have different goals because he doesn't know in 15, 20 years if he's going to be around. And I think I have a better chance of being around, so I can grow trees that might take longer to fruit to reach our goals. So you got to consider your personal goals when you do things like this. Hopefully he's around a long time, but those are the things to consider. So for my goals, we'll show you the things that I'm growing here today that I find best for this situation. Another thing is there's something here called high density gardening, which if you don't have a big space, you got to plant much closer. And some things are better to plant closer than others. And a lot of things I focus on in my videos is how close you can plant by still getting the best crop possible. Because you can plant anything right next to each other to get some fruit, but you want to get the most to make it the most efficient. And also you don't want to plant big trees close together. You want to plant maybe dwarf trees closer together. So figuring things out like that. Another challenge in my yard is I have a lot of foot traffic that comes by. And you know, a lot of people have to worry about four-legged animals. There's squirrels and there are raccoons and things like that. Here we got to worry about the two-legged animals because they'll take, if there's mangoes or something that's well known, they'll take it. So I made sure the front of my house doesn't have those common fruits that are very well known. I have no problem sharing my fruit with people, but I want them to ask me, and I want to have that opportunity to see what I want to give them before they just take it. So I don't want to make it so inviting, so I have food up front that is not the most well-known food as possible.
All right, Paul, so let's find out what you planted up front so that people don't steal your fruit.
And this is always changing as I learn. This part of the yard is my neighbor's yard actually, and I make a deal with some of my neighbors where I'll plant the trees if I could. I'll take care of your yard, but I want to plant the trees. And this guy doesn't even care about the fruit, but if he did, I would say, well, let's just split the fruit. Let me plant the trees. But he doesn't even care about the fruit, and he lets me plant here, so it's part of my front yard. And this one's called the acharu tree, acharu. And it's a fruit that's not known at all. It looks like a lychee size, and it tastes great. It grows really well here in Florida, but it's not well known. So that's acharu, and that's on my neighbor's side of the property here. Over here I have a star apple, known as Camito, or Camito is known as a star apple. There are different varieties. It's a beautiful tree. It's brown and green, and it doesn't lose its leaves. That's another thing. If aesthetically, you don't want to plant something like a persimmon right in front because it loses its leaves in the winter, or a sugar apple. So you want it to look somewhat good and give you somewhat privacy. So this one is a star apple. That's a good tree to grow.
And so people don't know what it is, so they won't steal it, or what?
It's not as common or popular as a banana or a mango. So some people know what it is. As a matter of fact, somebody stopped the other day and asked me if they could have some. Another thing is bananas you can grow up front, and they go really tall. Bananas, you know, people can't simply get the bananas because they got to work to get it if it's real tall, as opposed to having a dwarf banana tree, something that makes it easy to just drive by or walk by and pick it. So like coconut trees, if you have really tall coconuts, it's not easy to get them. But if you have a dwarf coconut here, you won't have any coconuts because everyone would take them when they walk by.
And isn't that what happened to your coconuts? Is that why you pulled them out? Because you used to have them up here, right?
No, I had a lot of coconuts inside the fence there, and they were so close to my other trees, when I would use a pole to get them down, they would fall. They would often break my other trees. Everything was so tight. And also the leaves would shade out everything. So the real way to do it is like my neighbor did it here. He planted on the street outside the fence, not inside the fence. So it'll help when the coconuts drop. The other problem I had is
just don't park the cars underneath the coconut trees.
Yeah, the other problem I had is when they get too high, because mine were about that height when I cut them. If they get too high, they become too much work to get. So, and he's got a good plan. He's gonna cut them next any day now, and he's gonna plant a new one next to them, or already did. So it'll replace those.
And then you got some new plantings here. What's going on here, and why are you got new plantings?
I've had different things here over time, but this is Surinam cherry is very common as it's a regular hedge. It's Surinam cherry and they're red. They're very sour, and you can go to most houses and they actually have them as just a bush in front of their house or a hedge. Well, there's black Surinam cherry, which is much sweeter, much more nutritious, and I typically don't like to plant things like berries. I used to have a mulberry tree here and I took it out. It used to just attract a lot of people, and it didn't give me enough food to eat for myself. I've had several things here, but these cherries I really like. A lot of people don't know what they are, and they can keep them size as a bush or a hedge. So I planted one 2, and I just put a new one here because I had something else here that wasn't growing well.
All right, cool. And the next tree is the one I really want to stop and talk about. So tell us about your amazing moringa tree that basically produces leafy greens you eat all year long.
Yes, as I was saying, my goal is to have the highest quality food and available to me all the time. This tree is probably, to me, the most important tree in the whole yard amongst all my fruit trees, and it's not a fruit tree. It's the moringa tree. From a nutritional standpoint, it's like God's multivitamin. It has everything pretty much we need, and it's minus a few things, but it's the most nutritional plant. And I strip the greens, and I put them on dehydrated trays, dry them at a low temperature, and I sprinkle the powder on my salad every single day. I love this. Sometimes I throw these in my juice or my blended salad. I just love this plant. I do have pods. I know I have some Indian friends. Sometimes they make a soup out of the pods, so they use that. The seeds are edible. I have several of these, and I'm going to plant more. I love moringa, and I highly recommend it, and it's one of the things that keep me going by eating a diet of just fresh fruits and vegetables.
Wonderful, Paul. Let's head in your yard and check out some more stuff.
All right, now we're inside the fence, and still stuff people can reach over the fence and grab. So I wanted to, again, strategically plant this, and I have here a Sapodilla. Sapodilla is known in Florida amongst a good amount of people, but they don't all ripen at the same time. And if you don't pick them when they're ripe, they don't really ripen well off the tree. And they kind of hide in the tree. They're brown. This particular variety fruits all year. It's called the Alano variety. It will grow super tall if you let it. I've been cutting it back, and that's the Alano Sapodilla. I have a bunch of Sapodillas and a bunch of video about the different varieties of Sapodillas.
And then what's your spacing, man? Like between the moringa and the Sapodilla, like how far apart? Because they're almost touching each other at this point.
Yeah, the moringa I cut down all the time, so this is never an issue, planting things close to moringa. I mean, I'm always cutting this. The Sapodilla, this one is a variety that grows super big, but it can be kept bush size if you wanted to. So I didn't even care about the spacing here, but the spacing here might be, I don't know, less than 6 or 7 feet between these two here.
And then what about like what is this, a mango here and your Sapodilla there?
Yeah, so this is considered a dwarf, not a dwarf Sapodilla, but one that can be dwarfed or can be kept small. This is a dwarf mango. This is called a pickering mango. So this mango can be grown in a pot, actually. It's called a condo mango, and it's the most, the variety that gives the most mangoes for keeping it small. So I never have to prune this tree, and it's not going to grow tall. A dwarf tree doesn't mean it doesn't get big. It means it takes tremendously long time to grow. I have other trees that I planted before I did this one, and they would take over the whole yard if I never cut them back. This one I didn't have to touch. You can come back here in 10 years and it'll be just a little taller than this, and every year it gives a tremendous amount. So the spacing between this doesn't need to be much, because this grows real slow, this grows real slow, and they both give me all the fruit that I want. The thing here is, I had over here a Jaba tree, which also grows small, but I don't like having fruits that are snack foods, because I don't have the space to just plant stuff for my leisure. And I'll show you another Jabo tree that I have that I didn't take out, but I took that tree out and I made some space here for something I'm about to do. But in the meantime, I put a papaya here as a temporary tree. So over here, I planted a black sapote, which probably is the most unknown, underrated fruit out there. There are different varieties, and the most common ones don't taste that great. This one tastes great, but most fruit trees...
Define great, Paul, because is great mean sweet? Because all the black sapotes I've ever had are just kind of like, all right, I taste some kind of black stuff, but there's no sweetness. You got to add like dates or something to make it taste good.
This one's called the Reineke variety, and it's pretty sweet. It's really nice. And so I got several varieties that are on the sweeter side, but the great thing about the black sapote is all the other trees fruit in the summertime, but this fruits in the winter time. And it'll give you fruit all throughout the winter to expand your season of eating. And there are some varieties now that'll even give you fruit in the summertime as well. So you can have one black sapote tree and have fruits for maybe 9 or 10 months on it. Same thing with white sapotes. They traditionally fruit only in the summertime, but I'm finding some now that fruit in the winter time. And I'm looking for these varieties so I can expand my season as much as possible and make these varieties possible so other people can do that as well. So that's what we're doing. So you want to look at taste, you want to look at how well it grows, you want to look at disease resistance, but you also want to look at how well it fruits in the season. That's really important, Because if this fruit had only 1 month a year, no matter how good it tastes, it wouldn't be worth it for me to have.
Yeah, because it's taking up valuable space that you could use for something more valuable.
And the reason I plant this in front is it can grow out, because it is a pretty big tree. And that's why this is a temporary tree, and I took the other one out, because eventually it's going to take over this whole spot. But this tree is going to be in the way, and this is a star fruit tree, a carambola. And as much as I enjoy this tree, it grows real fast, and I cut it back tremendously every year, and I'm about to either cut it back or cut it down completely, because star fruit is toxic if you eat too much of it. It's bad for the kidneys, because it has, they say what, oxalate. And
don't juice it.
Yeah, so if you eat too much, if you have kidney issues, they say it can be a problem. But my thing is, well, how do you know you have kidney issues? Maybe you do, so don't take them, a lot of them at all. But I would eat a lot of this variety, and they're in the store. One of them costs like $2 for one fruit.
And they're not ripe.
And they're not ripe, and you get a ton on here. But and some people sell the fruit, so if I keep it, I would keep it to sell it. But it just produces tremendous amount of food. It's an excellent tree if you want to get a good quantity of fruit, but you can't eat too much, or you shouldn't eat too much. So I've decided it might not be the ideal if somebody's interested in health to have this tree and just overeating it always, when that's the only thing in season. And this is in season 3 times a year, so you get a lot of food off this tree. But again, you have to be limited in how much of it you eat.
So here's the thing, Paul. Look for a low oxalate star fruit tree. That'd be badass.
Yeah, it's true when they talk about toxicity of star fruit and other fruits, they don't talk about the different varieties.
And some are lower than others.
We're going to talk about Soursop, because that has an issue, but no one's measuring those varieties. But with star fruit, no one's measuring it, but they always just say star fruit. But you know, if you want to look for the low variety ones, but taste-wise, I did videos on my website tasting like 10 varieties of star fruit, sitting next to each other and tasting all of them. But I don't know if any of them talk about
I'm sure there's published studies on the oxalate amounts.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But that's carambola. This one here is it's called a star apple. Well, the carambola, that's carambola star fruit. I think I said camito. This is camito. This is a star apple. There are different varieties. This, we spoke about it earlier. The trees are beautiful. They grow tall, but you can keep them small. Best tasting, most underrated fruit here. And the season, right now they're in season, and the problem is, if you plant things that are in season, when mangoes are in season, which we have the most of, it's a little counterproductive, because you better use the space to grow stuff that fruits in the winter, because you have a lot of fruit here in the summer that you can get, or people are growing. So you want to think about that when you're planting, is how much accessibility do I have to all the other fruits that grow in the summer before you plant new things that grow in the summer. It's nice for variety wise, but you got to be efficient with your space, especially if you don't have a lot of space.
So Paul, let's talk about more of the crops that actually don't fruit in the summer then, so that could get, you know, in people's minds, and that's what they want to plant.
Well, avocados here fruit all year. There's different varieties. This one's called Maria Black. This is actually a dwarf avocado tree. And this fruits in the summertime as well. But not most, but a good amount of avocados will start fruiting in Florida in about May, and they'll stop fruiting they'll go all the way to March or April. So you can get avocados all year if you have the right avocado trees. So I'll show you some of the ones that I actually do have. This is one that you were just talking about. This is a persimmon tree, and this fruits in the winter time.
Oh, the Triumph.
Yeah, this one's the Triumph. It'll lose all its leaves in the summertime, and in the winter time, well, actually, it'll lose its leaves in the late summer before it starts to come back on fruiting. But there's some little fruits on here now if you look. So there's
persimmons in the tropics.
Yes, there's only 2 varieties that are known to grow well here, because we don't get a lot of chill hours. One of them is the Triumph, and there's another one called the South Florida, which used to be called Hudson. And those are the 2 that are known to grow well here.
And between the 2, which one do you like more? Have you tasted
They both taste similar, but I think the South Florida, I've had more persimmons on there. But the Triumph, I know some with an old tree, and they have a good amount. The thing about persimmons, it might take 10 or 15 years before you start getting a good significant amount of fruit to eat off the tree. So that's something you got to keep in mind. I have some empty spaces here, and I had a banana here, a dwarf banana. I also had a strawberry, Jamaican strawberry tree, but I don't want my neighbor to sell his property, and if I don't get it, somebody to come and plant a giant tree that's going to shade out all my trees. So I'm trying to plant something small that's going to maybe deter that happening. And so I planted here another black Surinam cherry. So we'll see how that does here. And here's a seedling jackfruit. Jackfruit's another thing people don't really know or take, or it's so accessible from the store if they do know. But that's a seedling jackfruit. We'll see how it goes. And I extend the water from my water system to this part of my neighbor's yard. So these trees, not that one, but these trees will get irrigation as well.
And how often do you irrigate?
Every day, actually. In the summertime especially. Maybe 15 to 20 minutes every day. Yeah, and this one is a mango that I just put in here because I needed a space. It's called Jahingar. I'll see how it does. I have a lot of mango trees. This here is a Jujube tree, and this
what variety?
This is called the thornless Thai. It does have a few thorns, but it's the only one that really grows here well. It's different than California jujubes that when they dry up, you can use them. They call them a Chinese date. Here, that doesn't happen. When they dry up, they're pretty much inedible. They taste really sour. They don't get sweeter. And these trees, I cut this tree back every year down to like right here. And it grows back every year to give me an abundance amount of fruit during the season.
Does it end up root suckers like the ones in the West Coast?
It will, yeah. But if you don't cut this at all, this thing would be the biggest tree in the yard. And to me, it's really, if you don't get the jujube at the right time,
it's garbage.
It makes a big difference. So if you can't reach them, it's probably, I like to keep it where I can reach them. And I have growing within there a seedling jackfruit that's just growing right up there. And this tree, you just actually got this tree.
Oh,
this
Ronnie.
This is called a Ronnie avocado. And this is a late season avocado. My friend Julian at laurafontsmiami.com has
a good fruit, Paul?
Oh yeah, really nice.
Good.
Really nice. I like this. So this is a Ronnie avocado. And this is the second year it's going to be fruiting. We had a great crop last year. And now I planted from a 1 gallon. I have a tree in there called an Oro Negro avocado, which is a winter avocado. The best tasting, but not the best producing. So I might cut it back and top work it, but I have that there.
So explain what top work is for people that don't know what that means.
All right, so I have one variety of avocado on there, and for whatever reason I want to change it or add another variety, what I would cut it back maybe to the middle or as low as I want and wait for it to grow new branches and then graft on the new budwood onto those branches, so that new variety of that budwood will become part of that tree. Some people just top work the whole variety, and some people add 3 or 4 new ones, or just leave it as one variety. I'll show you in a few minutes one of the trees I just chopped down that I'm going to start top working, and one of the trees I already top worked. These are mango trees and how they look. All right, so, and this one's another Sapodilla. This one,
rank that into your favorite number of fruits. Like, it's one of my top favorite fruits, Paul.
Well, to taste wise, it's one of my top. To grow wise, it's somebody who's looking to eat like I am, food that'll fill them up and not just get a snack.
Because they're uneven ripening.
Well, they don't ripen at the same time. So you could have 100 fruit in this tree, and at most you'll get maybe 3 or 4 a day.
So that means
most.
you need like 10 trees to get a nice meal out of them.
And if you do, that would be good. So there's great tasting, and there's different varieties, and I did a lot of exploring last winter about the different varieties and all the different seasons, and I have videos on that, and I feel it's important because if you have different varieties, it stretches the season with these, and some of them taste quite significantly different. Here's another Meringue tree. This one was planted before the other one. A branch from this actually supported that other one. This is interesting here. I had an ackee tree here that I took down, but it keeps trying to grow back. I can hardly kill this tree. Literally, the tree was there, but this thing keeps growing. And I tried to get the roots. I tried to cut them out and everything. And it was just too big of a tree to cut out the roots. But the ackee tree I had here, it just gets big fast. I like ackee. And I had another one at my townhouse. It just gets big too fast. And I'm in the yard every day and working every day. Ackee's a great fruit to have, a good tree.
Describe ackee for people. I mean, I know what it is, but most people watching will have no idea.
Yeah, it's A-K-E-E. It's a fruit from Jamaica. And it's if you eat it when it's unripe, if you pick it off the tree and eat it when it's unripe, it's known to be poisonous, but it grows fast. And there's 2 different varieties. There's a soft and a hard variety, but it just grows real fast. So in this spot, once the tree gets a certain height, people say, oh, I'll just cut it back. It's not as easy to do, especially when you have a lot of trees to deal with. And that's why I'm not a big fan of the high density gardening, because if you do keep everything close and keep on it and prune it, it works. Most people don't keep up on it. Stuff happens, or they get older, or it's just too hot, or so many reasons why they don't keep up with it. And you know, in that case, you're better off planting farther apart. Also, I don't want to spray my trees. And if you plant close, and even if you are going to prune it, you're still cutting back on the airflow. And if you cut back on the airflow, you know, to stop disease, which is carried through a stale air, it's better off to have a lot of room around the trees. That'll help a little with the disease, a lot, I think, with the diseases of the trees. So it's better not to plant close if you don't have to. And in my yards, what I did is, it left some areas where I planted super wide apart, and some areas where I planted real close. And I do a lot of this for my own experimental reasons, but also to teach people in their videos so they can see what works and what doesn't work for me, and maybe get some ideas. And just what works for me and my ideas is this area and this climate. It could be different. People ask me about growing mangoes in California or growing white sapote trees in other areas. I don't know other areas. I know South Florida, what's growing and what's not growing, even though, you know, I hear things about other places, but I could tell you what's doing well for me. But even my neighbor has a different microclimate than I do, and we might have different experiences with the same variety of fruit. So the best way to know is to plant it in your own spot and see how it does, do the research, see if it meets your goals, and then roll with it. And like me, I remove or top work a good amount of trees because they didn't work. The experiments didn't turn out the way I thought they would. But I'm never left guessing. I tried it and I'll move on. And sometimes you gotta wait a long time to do that. But if you do this strategically, you should never have to wait a long time to have fruit on your trees. So that's some of the things I consider. This here is technically my neighbor's yard, but I planted a bunch of mangoes back here. Mangoes do not need irrigation like most other fruit trees here in South Florida. So these trees hardly ever get any water, and they grow well. That big tree there is my favorite mango. There's actually one on there. It's called a sunrise mango. There's one that's ripe right now, I see.
All right, Paul, what's this plant right here? I know it. I'm growing it right here.
Yeah, you were saying the other day that's yucca, right?
Yucca, yeah, that's yucca, and you could harvest the tubers, but you need to cook them or you're not gonna eat them. And the leaves are highly toxic. If you eat them raw, maybe you could have a center leaf, maybe once in a blue moon, but yeah, you gotta cook those guys. Yeah. I'm glad to see those growing here though.
Yeah, my neighbor grows them and likes them. And here I have this is a white sapote. This variety is called Vernon, and it's not the best producer, but it really flowers a lot, so it helps pollinate the other white sapote trees that I have. And it does make fruit as well, so I'm looking forward for this to grow up nice and big. And I could have planted a mango here, which I used to have, but it's my neighbor's property, and there's some other people that come and they might take the mangoes. A lot of people don't know what the white sapote are, and it was a good spot, so I planted one here.
And then what's up with that black pipe at the bottom, man?
Well, especially since it's not my yard, even though I'm the one that takes care of the yard, if anyone's gonna do weed whacking, and the weed whacker on these small trees or even a big tree is not a good idea, this stops and breaks.
So that's for the weed whacker, not for like, you know, lizards or anything else?
Simply the weed whacker.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so this is an idea of what I do here and how I do it. I got this tree here, I had a space and I planted it. This was called a Cogs Hole or Cogsshore mango. And I really didn't like it when I planted it. And I was thinking, should I just cut it out? Because it's in my walking path. It would be more aesthetic if it wasn't here. It would look better. But before I cut it out, I decided I was gonna try to put another dwarf mango on here instead. And what I did is I cut it back and I planted all the way around another mango. And this mango is called Ice Cream. It's one of my favorite fruits varieties. And it's much smaller, but only one branch took of the ice cream, and there's the graft.
Oh, so you grafted it.
Grafted
You said
it.
you planted it.
Oh, sorry, I planted it into another tree. It's a graft. So I grafted it.
So explain to people what that is and where the graft mark is and which one is which.
Like we were saying, this was the original tree, the Cogsshore, and I didn't like that one, so I cut it right here. Yep. And I took budwood from the tree that I did like.
You took from wood from another tree.
Yeah, and I put it right in here.
And then it joined up, and so it's like part of the tree now.
And it took successfully, so it started growing leaves, and then it grew into this big branch, and this year I had 3 mangoes on here, and next year I'll have even more. But now what I'm trying to do is get budwood from this and do it on the rest of the tree.
Move it to the other side. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Because originally I was just going to keep I tried to do the whole tree, but it didn't come out. Those didn't take. So I just got some budwood from one of these the other day, and I put it up here.
Ah, so your new graft.
So I already grafted this side here, and which I would have did it all the way around if I had more budwood, but I didn't. So this is a graft, and if this takes, now both sides of the tree will be set. Now this one here is, I had a seedling somewhere, and I wanted to see what's going to grow into. So I took a budwood from that and I put it in here, because it'll fruit much faster after a graft.
Oh, wow.
As if you leave it in the ground.
A seedling.
So I'll see the seedling, how long it'll take and what it'll give me, if it'll give me something good or not. So that's something.
And then from that point, from a seedling to graft, and then how long is it going to fruit at that point?
From a seed in the ground to a tree, it could take 5 to 8 years, maybe even longer. Sometimes shorter, but usually longer, maybe 10 years, sometimes 15 years. But graft in the ground, you could have fruit in 3 years, maybe even 2 years, depending on the size of the tree. But a seedling, the root is already established. So once a seedling takes, usually 2 years, you could have fruit.
Wow, 2 years on your seedling plant. So you could really speed up the production to see if you have a good seedling, and you could call it out, name it after your daughter, your son.
Any graft. Now, we didn't look at this one here, and I have all around in my yard. This is the one I probably eat more.
I love that, man. Give me one of those.
This is called a miracle fruit.
Everybody should grow these.
Miracle fruit is
and they seed year round. They make fruit year round, right?
Yes, and it makes everything sour taste sweet for the next 15 minutes after you eat it. And I love to fast or drink lemon water. And I eat the berry and then I drink the water, and it tastes like lemonade. So when I don't want to eat, but I don't want to just be on water, I like to do this. And it's very uncommon to see a plant this big of this variety. But a lot of people, they don't want to plant them in the ground here in South Florida, because they say the nematodes will mess with it and it will stop them from growing. So a lot of people grow this plant in pots, and they do pretty well. But I've been having much success with putting these in the ground. I have this one in the ground. There's one behind you against the window that was actually bigger than this that I just cut back. And that's one. And then there's 2 over there in the front. There's 2 varieties of these, and the seeds are a little different shape, but they do the same thing. So
how are these propagated, Paul?
That's another one here.
Because I want to get these. I got one miracle berry on my property now. I don't know what kind it is, but I want to get more.
Okay, yeah. I sell those miracle fruit plants, actually.
No, you do?
Yeah. So, and yeah, so that's, oh wait, then there's this cool thing. This is my other job with the Cabo tree. And check it out.
But you didn't chop it down yet.
Yeah, it's fruiting. Have you ever tasted this, John?
Of course.
Oh.
What variety?
This is a Sabra.
I don't know if I tasted it. I mean, I've tasted Java de Cabo. I don't know if it's
This is the most common one. It's a black one.
I probably had it then. They're way better than grapes, man.
Actually, is it Grimel? No, it's Sabra. Yeah. There's Sabra and the Grimel. I get confused. But yeah. But that, and they taste good, I bet, after the miracle fruit, right?
Oh, maybe that's why they taste good. I'm like, these are the best Java de Cabos I've had.
And this here is a jackfruit. This is a Chine jackfruit seedling. Now, jackfruit seedlings are interesting because if you plant a grafted jackfruit, you need a lot of space. But on a seeded jackfruit, they grow straight up and they stay skinny. And this is a seedling to one of my favorite jackfruits called Chine jackfruit, which is a combination of a Champa-Jack and a jackfruit. It's like a Champa-Jack. So it's not true to seed, but it's more true to seed than any other fruit. So it might be like 90% chance you'll get something very similar to what the original fruit was. So we're gonna see, I have some seedlings in the back that have fruit on them now after maybe 2 to 3 years, and I'll show you how big they are, and I'm about to taste them for the first time. But this is going straight up. I only had a small spot here. They're perfect for this area.
All right, Paul, you going nuts, man? Because it looks like you got a nut tree right there.
That is a Malabar chestnut, they call it. Some people call it the money tree. And I haven't had the fruit from it yet. I think you said you had tasted
I've had them in Hawaii. They're good.
Yeah, and so that's a nut tree that I put there. Experiment. I haven't had it before, and I usually don't do that, but it was on the front, and I wanted something that's going to separate mine from my neighbor's yard, because this is a parking space area, and you know, it's very, you got to decide what your goals are. My neighbor actually took out his parking lot to grow more trees, but I have my parking area here. But I just planted another black sapote right here to grow out in the street and see how it does. This tree here is a white sapote tree. This is a Subel white sapote, and it's grown really well. It has fruits in it. It's a fruiting season now. So I had a big giant sapodilla tree here called a butterscotch sapodilla that I took out because it wasn't as productive as I would like it to be, and I replanted another sapodilla tree there that of a variety that I do like. But if I want to, I could take that tree out and open this driveway up and then put another fruit tree here if I wanted to, and there's things I consider. This tree here is a Mamey tree. This is a Key West plantain variety. Humongous tree, not something I would recommend for people that don't have a lot of space. Takes a really long time to fruit, but hopefully it'll be worth it to keep it here. I have the space for it, but if I let this tree get much bigger, I won't have the space. So I'm gonna have to keep knocking this tree back to make sure it doesn't overtake the other trees. This is a tree that I top worked previously. It was originally called a Kent variety of mango. And I took the Kent off most of the tree except on one branch. And I have Angie, and I have Fairchild, and I have now a new variety that I put on here called Karen Michelle. So now it has 4 varieties of mangoes on here, and they're all different seasons.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
This starts all the way with Fairchild at the beginning of the season, and Angie at the beginning to mid-season, and it goes all the way to these, which are the last mangoes that I hang for the year. These are Kent mangoes, and Kent and Kit will be some of the latest, and I'll hang to the end of the year. Then back there I have a big tree. It's an avocado tree called the Jujube avocado, and that one was a winter avocado, and it fruits pretty late into the spring. Well, not maybe till like March or April it'll fruit. And back there I have a Katuk plant as well. And
I see it, yeah.
Katuk is, I want to get much more of those because I really love it, and I'd like to do more of that, but I like Katuk a lot. I have a miracle fruit here in a pot, and that's a dwarf coconut I have in the pot. But I don't have room for these things. Now look at this tree here.
It's white. What happened to it?
This tree was the lemon zest tree, the most
That's the one I like.
famous, best mango here in South Florida, taste-wise. However, in my particular area in Palm Beach, there's something called bacterial black spot, and it makes the mangoes pretty much inedible. And so I had this tree here, and it was loaded with fruit, but the fruit kept falling with the black spot, and I just decided I'm going to top work the tree. So I cut it up, I painted it up, and now it started to come back. And hopefully in a couple of months I'll be able to take the variety I want and just post it on top of the branches here, and then I'll have my own different varieties. And my goal is I'll keep one as a lemon zest, but on the other varieties I'll plant different varieties, and this tree will be maybe 4 or 5 different varieties. So that's that. There's another variety of mangoes called Sweet Tart, and definitely these varieties are too close, so I have to cut them.
And how close are they, Paul?
These are 10 feet apart.
10 feet apart is too close, because you see they're kind of running into each other.
And I will cut this back a good amount at the end of the year. And this one's called a Sugarloaf, another popular variety here, Sugarloaf. Most people haven't heard of these varieties that don't live in Florida, but in Florida they're quite...
What are these mangoes here, Paul?
There's a tree in the back that's a double tree, and I didn't like these. These are called Dunkin' mangoes.
Oh, good, I could take them with me.
Yes, you can. You don't want them, though.
You don't want them.
They're not good.
Paul, the ones you grow are better than the ones that I'll get in the store from Mexico that are hot water dipped.
Well, we'll see. Okay.
We'll see.
This is a cac mango, my favorite. One of my favorites. It's delicious. So that's cac mango.
So you talked about the improper spacing of 12 feet. So what is the best spacing that you would recommend for a homeowner like in this context to get the most mangoes, to not have to trim them back all the time and get good yield, get good airflow and all this stuff?
Well, what my friend Alex at Tropical Acre does, which I think is a very good idea, he plants his mango trees 8 feet apart, and he harvests the mangoes at 8 feet for 5 to 7 years on every tree. But after 5 to 7 years, then you have to start worrying about them getting too close. And then after that, he takes the middle tree out. So he's already got like 5 years of harvesting fruit off the middle tree. Then he takes that out, and it opens up the space, and then he's left with 16 feet between trees. And he grows over 300 varieties, and that's what he says works best for him. But still, there are some trees that he says he wished they were 20 feet apart because the trees are just very vigorous trees. So ideally, if you have a big spot, you don't want to have to worry about pruning, you don't have to worry about trees growing into each other, 20 feet would be ideal. However, if you want to get the most efficiency out of your space, the way my friend does it, maybe 16 feet apart with one in the middle that would be the way to get the most mangoes.
And let's talk about this, Paul. So you got 2 mangoes, and then you got 1 papaya in the middle. So what's going on with that? And is that a good thing to do also?
Papaya or bananas or some type of bush or something. These are wonderful middle trees because they'll fruit for a couple of years. They're easy to cut out if you want to cut them out. So I just want to get the most food as possible. So in this space, I put a papaya. I could have put...
And what variety papaya?
This is a red lady. No, this isn't a red lady. This is a marigold, I believe.
Maridol?
Starts with an M. My friend brought it over, and I just put it right there, and there it goes.
All right.
Yeah, but I have a lot of papayas. I'll show you. As a matter of fact, in the corner over there, there's like 5 or 6 growing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite jackfruits called the Chine. This is the one
that's from...
It's a Champa-Jack because it's a soft, small jackfruit, and it's an easy peel. You don't have to cut it. You can just peel it with your hands when it's ready.
So talk about that. So soft jackfruit versus, the firm jackfruit.
A lot of people like the firm jackfruit, but they have a lot of latex. So when you cut them open, especially if it's taken off the tree unripe, when you cut it open, it gets a lot of latex. It destroys the knife. It destroys everything. Everything gets sticky. It's not an easy process to get the crunchy varieties. Are usually the ones with more latex, but it also when you get it, if it's ripe or not completely ripe. But they'll fall off the tree often when they're ripe, but they start to get a smell to them when I know they're ready. So I know this is ready when it smells. I take it off, and this variety has very low latex. It's called Easy Peel, and the flesh just happens to be on a softer side. There's some hard ones that might be easier to peel if it wasn't picked at the wrong time, but most people are picking it too soon, and it's really a pain in the butt to clean and to eat, and it makes the experience almost like you don't want it.
Yeah, the other thing is like the soft jackfruit, you could kind of rip the fruit open and it comes apart like if they're ripe without a knife.
That's why
because it's only attached on like one side, but then the firm jackfruit, the crunchy kind, is attached on both sides, so you have to use a lot more cutting. It takes a lot more work. I don't like the, you like the soft one. I don't like the soft one because the soft one, like, it seems like it's going to choke me because you can't really chew it. It's maybe for smoothies or something would be good.
Well, some of them are a little soft, some are much softer. There's a difference in this. The different types of soft ones there is a difference. I had one that was so soft I couldn't even pick it up, but this one you could open up and you could pick it up and break it. And there's a fruit called the Champa-Jack, which doesn't grow here in South Florida, but it grows where you are. It'll grow in Puerto Rico and it'll grow in Hawaii. It's called Champa-Jack, and it's all soft peel, easy, opens easy, tastes amazing. Tastes amazing. So this one's actually called a Boca Champa-Jack. Even though it's called a Champa-Jack, it's actually a jackfruit. And I took seeds from this and I planted it, and I actually have a seedling on this one.
Oh, right next door.
Yeah, that's from that tree.
So that's the mother.
Yeah, that's the mother, right from this tree.
And this one's so much taller because it's a seedling.
And it grows straight up and stays skinny. I actually haven't tasted that yet, so I'm not sure.
Oh, so that's your first fruit off it.
Yeah, and I have another tree that I can't plant at the same time that has a seedling as well.
And how long? So from the time you planted the seed, how long did it take to get the fruit? How many years was this?
About 3 or 4 years.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah. And I'll show you the other two. I planted 3 seedlings of this because I like the fruit so much. And one other one has fruit, and the one that doesn't, I had to cut the top several times because it was getting into the wires on top. So back here, I have a white sapote plant, a white sapote tree, and this tree has several different varieties on it. And with white sapote, the leaves feel different depending on what variety they are.
Oh, interesting.
So this original variety is called Homestead variety, and you can feel this leaf, and it feels just like a normal leaf here. But there are some leaves that feel like fuzzy. And I have a variety called Fruit Hunters variety, and which is off season. So feel this one. I did a graft on this tree. Right here's the graft. Feel that leaf.
Oh wow, that's like velvety.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So you know it's a different variety.
Right, I like
by doing that. So it's really cool. So hopefully.
And how does the Fruit Hunters, variety taste?
It tastes great, and it fruits off season. That's the one we found that fruits off season. So it had fruit in December, which is unheard of.
Wow. I need to get that and bring it out on my property.
Yes. So my neighbors and I, we like to either I plant on my neighbor's property or my neighbor plants trees, and we both plant against the fence. So I get some of his, he gets some of mine. So that's an Angie mango tree there, and he has a bunch of mango trees there. This is another Mamey tree that goes straight up this variety. So that's a Lorita variety. So that's Mamey. As I told you, I have various papayas around the property that will be cut down. That one's going to be cut down soon. It's been there usually about a year. You'll get good papayas, maybe 2 at most, but eventually they don't fruit as well. And you might as well, you cut them down and plant a new one or open up the space. Here I have a custard apple. There's a red custard apple called a Fernandez. This one's a Fernandez. And there's little flowers on here right now, actually. So that's a good thing. So if you leave that, hopefully they'll fruit. This hasn't fruited yet. Here's a flower that wasn't pollinated and it just fell off. And here I have another persimmon tree. This is the South Florida persimmon tree.
Oh, wow. It's a lot more productive.
Yeah.
So compare the time the Triumph was planted to this one.
About the same time.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah.
And this one's doing much
this
better.
This one might have been sooner.
I see.
Yeah, but just by a year. So, and then here's a mango called Orange Sherbet.
Wow, you have tons. That's a good one,
Yeah.
man. We tasted it the other day.
Yeah. So that's actually ready.
Oh, and that one just fell. I mean, that's when you know your fruit's ripe.
Yeah.
Paul, so why don't you talk about ripe fruit versus not ripe fruit you would buy from the store?
Well, I mean, this mangoes you can pick. If you pick them at the right time, they'll be hard. They appear to be unripe. But if you some varieties, if you let right on the tree, they do better and they taste better. Some varieties do better if you take them off the tree before they're soft. So this is ripe, not soft. And you could tell 2 ways. One way is when you go to pick it, if the stem is black and you turn it like this, it'll automatically come off. And if you do that, you'll find the mango won't squirt either clear liquid or white milk. You know it's ready to come off, meaning if you left it there, it was about to fall off anyway. Then some varieties, the whole fruit will turn yellow. And then at that point, you know it's ready to take. But that's ripe on the tree where you have to eat it like that day. This still needs to sit on your counter for 3 or 4 days before it's ready to eat.
And then what's the indicators that it's ready to eat?
It'll get soft. It'll get softer. And in some varieties, it changes to yellow. Some varieties don't.
And very important, guys, if you're used to just the store-bought mangoes, those need to be extra soft before you eat them. And these ones like that are picked fresh, a little bit soft is good. Too soft is actually, they're starting to ferment actually.
Yeah, so, and that's how you learn. If you're growing your own tree, I might have 100 of these, so I can eat one at one stage and one at another, and you get to start to know what stage is the best stage to eat it. So this tree is a seedling of this tree. Well, this is a grafted tree, but this is originally called the lemon meringue tree.
And tell everybody, Paul, why you planted the lemon meringue.
Lemon meringue is a mango. I was eating Kits and Kents, and John came to visit me many years ago and stayed at my house, and he came from a local farm, Truly Tropical, and he found a bunch of lemon meringue mangoes, and he said, this is the best mango I ever had. And we just ate so many of them. This nursery was selling this particular variety. It's an excellent variety. It's from Miramar, and it was called Popu Clay there, and it grows here in Florida.
Myanmar.
Lemon meringue. Miramar, yeah.
Myanmar.
Myanmar. Yeah.
All right, that's it.
And so somebody took a seedling of this, and they ended up, you know, they're supposed to be true to seed, but they're not really true to seed, because it's not never 100%. So they took a seedling of this, and they ended up, one of the seedlings came out that tasted pretty good, and they called it Orange Sherbet. There was another seedling that came from this tree, and they called it Lemon Zest. So those are all from this tree. So yeah, it's a pretty popular tree. It's well known, and its fruit's great. So we have Orange Sherbet, lemon meringue, and if you would have came here a week ago, the tree would have been out to here.
Wow, we cut it back after it fruited.
It started stopping. Fruit's almost done, so I cut it back to make more room for my other trees. And I have 2 lemon meringue trees right here, and I'm starting to cut them back.
Will you ever cut those down?
Huh?
Will you ever cut the lemon meringues down?
Never say never. I mean, I got 2 right here, 2 big ones.
I know, I would keep them.
So it depends. I mean,
they're good fruit.
Sometimes fruit does well, and then sometimes it doesn't. So back there, I have another Mamey back there. We won't go back there, but I want to show you.
You have tons of jackfruit, man. Look at that. This is how crazy fruit could be, guys. Look at this. He has fruit, like basically some of them are touching the ground, so you got to put some wood down so it don't get rotted.
This one's ready right now.
That one's ready because it's split and it's soft.
Yeah.
And then if we go up like 1 foot. Okay, look, guys. Here, we go up here, another level. There's ones there. We go up a little bit more. They're here. We go up a little bit more over here. They're here. We go a little bit more, they're there.
Look at that.
We go over here, there's one there, there's one there, there's one. They go pretty tall, guys. There's like so many fruits. So Paul.
This is the first year it's fruiting, actually.
No way. How many? So this is the first time it's fruited, and how many years did it take?
I'd say 3 or 4 years.
And
from a 1 gallon.
Is this okay, so this is what cultivar is it?
This is a black gold. It's a soft cultivar.
Ah, black gold.
I love it. I had it the other day, and I had another tree that I bought to be a black gold, and it started fruiting and it didn't. It was a seedling, and it was too soft, and it didn't taste to my liking, so I wanted to get another black gold, so I planted this here, and I'm glad I did. I'm going to harvest that right now on camera.
All right.
This tree here right next to my jackfruit tree is avocado, and it's the worst flavor avocado you can get in South Florida, in my opinion.
What is it?
It's called a Donnie avocado.
Donnie.
Donnie.
Don't buy the Donnie.
The reason I got it was one of my favorite early season avocados called the Simmons. And I bought a Simmons tree, and the nursery had it labeled wrong, and it turned out to be a Donnie. And so I was going to top work it, but...
So did you get retribution from the nursery?
Yes, they made themselves right.
All right, good.
All right, so I'm 100% sure that this is ready. It smells, and there you go. I mean, I can stick my hand right in it and eat it, but I'm not going to eat that right now, but I will cut this right now.
You need loppers.
No, actually you don't, but well, for this one you do, it's so big.
All right, tell us what you're gonna do with the sap as it comes out, man.
I'm gonna pour
There's a couple things to do.
Well, I'm gonna pour it on the floor so it doesn't get all over the place, but you let it drip, and it drips out. And you might be asking, if it's ready, why is it dripping? It would be squirting out tremendously if it was picked like a week ago. But jackfruit, that's what it does. But if I open this fruit right now compared to a hard variety, this fruit, there's some of the latex. But if I open this up, I could rip this open right now, and there'll be some latex, but it'd be nothing like the experience as if you had a hard jackfruit, like a Bangkok lemon or something else.
Like, what do you think percent-wise less latex? 50% less? 75%?
A very noticeable difference. I can't say for sure, but very noticeable. Like this one would take me to open this up and take out the fruit, and I like to wear gloves anyway. I still wouldn't put a knife in there because it might get messed up. But if I take out the fruit and do that, the whole process might take me 15 minutes or a half hour most.
That's because I eat always hard jackfruit or firm kind.
If I did that with a hard one?
I mean, I could eat a little section in a half hour, but then that's part of the process. You know, it slows you down from eating it.
Yeah, I'm saying to harvest.
I see.
To harvest the fruit. But if I cut open a big one, it would take me maybe 2 hours to get the fruit. So I'm not talking about eating it, I'm talking about actually taking out, harvesting it. So let's pick this up, and maybe we'll weigh it later. What do you think, John? How much do you think it weighs?
Man, I'm not a good judge. Let's see. 20,
I would say
25, 30.
Yeah. So we'll let Jack sit there. All right, for a little while, right next to the orange sherbet. That's the lemon meringue. There's the difference in the size. Orange sherbet, lemon meringue. All right, so this is a late season mango called M4. It's a late season, and the reason why it's called M4 is Gary Zill, who's really known here in South Florida for his mangoes, he planted like 10,000 mango seeds to see what would come up, and he named his seeds by row and letter. And the ones that were good were the ones he kept. So let's say out of 10,000, let's say 100 were amazing. So that's where he got the name varieties, and he would somehow give them a name after either a person or the way it tasted, but some don't have a name yet. So this one's M4. It was in row M, spot 4, so they call it M4. Excellent late season variety. This is a soursop tree. We haven't seen this yet. I have a couple of soursop trees here, and soursop is known for its fruit being delicious. Its leaves are supposed to help people with cancer, and a lot of people make a tea out of the leaves. And I found out a couple of years ago that the soursop fruit, or anything from the Annona family, can be very toxic. It can have a neurotoxin that can really cause something similar to Parkinson's disease. So some people are scared to eat them, but other people don't know about that, or even if they know, they don't care. We were talking about this earlier with the star fruit. The thing is, the reason why the leaves are so helpful to cancer is because the toxin in the leaves actually helps fight the cancer cells and kill the cancer cells. Well, if you don't have cancer and you're doing the leaves, you're killing cells still, and they could be good cells. But the problem is, some people say, well, just eat in a small amount, the tea and also the fruit, if you're gonna have the fruit, because it's supposed to be the seeds and the skin and also the leaves that have the toxins, but it's unquestionable of how much toxin that gets into the flesh.
Not much.
People say not much, but
I've seen the studies.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I found out. There's no way to tell on a particular cultivar or variety.
I agree with that.
How much is in one variety or not.
Yes.
So whatever variety the study was done with, it might not be that one.
Exactly.
But with Soursop, there's not many name varieties. They just say Soursop.
Because they're seedlings.
Now this one's this one is Miami Soursop, but it is a well-known variety. But still, that's the problem. And with all the Annona family of fruits, that's the
even
problem.
any fruit, you know, the nutrients and, you know, anti-nutrients are at different levels.
Yeah, but if they're toxins, then you don't know. So like fine, something has better vitamin C than something else, but if something has a higher poison toxin, I don't want it.
The dose is in the poison, so you don't want to ever do too much, and you don't want to do too little.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful with that, and it's in all the Annona families. So the custard apples, the sugar apples, the Rolinias, and the Soursop. These are things that you'd be questionable about. I know somebody in California growing cherimoya, and he found this out and he took all his cherimoya trees out because he wants to err on the side of caution.
Wow, I think that's excessive myself, but you know, to each their own.
You think it is, but the guy has very valid points. He says, err on the side of caution because it has a known toxin.
But you could send the fruit off and get it tested. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money, and then you'll know. That's the way to do it, really.
You could do that as well if they have tests for that particular.
I'm sure
toxin.
they do.
So this one's a Mamey here. This is a dwarf Mamey tree. It's called a pumpkin Mamey, and it hasn't been well known to.
And how big are the fruits?
Well, I don't know. I had 2 trees and one died, so I haven't had the fruits to this one.
And
yet
how long has it been in the ground?
This has been in the ground for maybe 5 or 6 years.
Wow. So no fruit yet.
In general, they take a long time. This here is my tree that's half sunrise and the other half was Duncan. And there's my Duncan. I dunked it right to the floor.
You hate them. But sunrise is like your favorite.
My best, from worst to first. I chose a Duncan tree and I put sunrise on it. But half of the tree didn't get take on the graft, so I took these off and now I'll let that tree grow and get more.
And those
sun.
are garbage to you, huh?
Yeah. You had one the other day.
What did I say about it?
They were garbage.
That's pretty bad if I say they're garbage.
Yeah. This here is another avocado tree, an early season avocado. And here is my white sapote tree. Oh, well, no, this is the other seedling. This is my 3rd seedling of that jackfruit tree up front. And I had to cut the top several times, so this one doesn't have a fruit on it, but the other one, I'll show you, the 3rd one does. So this is my white sapote fruit. This is my oldest tree. This is called Rollinia. Whoop. That tree's called Rollinia. One just fell on the floor.
Rollinia.
Oh, Rollinia, what am I saying? This was the Redlands white sapote. Redland white sapote. And they're usually much bigger than this, but it all depends on how well they get pollinated. But they're usually the size of a tennis ball. But try that. I know you like that.
Yeah, no, I had this before. It's good.
That's called Redland.
Look at that, guys. It's like super deep yellow. So delicious.
And they'll be all over the floor. And the great thing about white sapote is that a lot of people don't know is you could freeze them and they freeze wonderful.
So explain your freezing process, Paul.
You just put them in a freezer just like this.
Just whole.
And then you take them out, they thaw out, you eat them. They're absolutely amazing. It tastes like ice cream when they come out. I had a Rollinia tree right here and it just died. It was growing wonderful. It was too close to the white sapote anyway, but it just literally died very quickly. So I planted a seedling of a jackfruit and also a jujube tree, and I'll just see what comes up and how they do. There's some papayas right there, right near you. Those are red lady papayas. They're very well known.
Is that your favorite type of papaya?
No, I mean, but it's a good variety. I don't know if I have a favorite one, but it's good.
All right, Paul, so I'm seeing your vegetable beds, but I don't see no vegetables growing. What's up with that?
Well, in the winter here, I use these beds to grow vegetables, and I only usually grow kale and spinach. So I usually grow just kale and collards. I love collards, and besides collards, I grow I grow bok choy. The thing I grow the most of is the the cabbage, the Napa cabbage.
Oh, Napa cabbage.
So
nice.
I use that a lot. So this is all Napa cabbage, collards, and bok choy in the summertime, in the wintertime. But in the summertime, I have all these other fruits to eat, and I'm doing stuff in the house. Now I finally got irrigation on the in the beds. I used to just hand water them.
Oh yeah, I remember you asked me how you should do it.
Yeah, so I finally got irrigation in the beds, and what I've decided is one of my favorite fruits in general is watermelon. And I used to hand water the watermelon, and it would be okay, but this year I actually, first year I have the irrigation where I don't have to come out and hand water it. The watermelon, these are all different varieties, so in the summertime here I'm growing watermelon patches of different varieties of watermelon, and you can see one right here. There's one somewhere over here. Watermelon hides. It's a very interesting. Look how long these grass grow. Do you grow watermelon?
No, I see it right there. Oh, it's
Yeah,
over
look,
here. Well,
here.
yeah, there's one there and there's one over there.
Yeah. So we'll see how these do. But in the last 2 years, I've been doing really well with watermelon.
So with the irrigation system in, how's it been doing?
Look at it. Much better.
Much better than you hand watering, right?
Well, I don't have to hand water.
I know, but when you hand watered, did you do better with the irrigation or hand watering?
They did good. Last year they did good. I had about maybe 10 to 12 watermelons last year. So we'll see how these do. And so yeah, that's what I'm doing with the beds in the summer. And there's a lot of areas to grow perennial vegetables like the gatuk in the front and the Meringue. This here is actually my drain field.
So you
And
can't
that's why
plant things that go deep.
You shouldn't.
Exactly.
So that's why I planted my garden here.
Yeah, perfect place for a garden.
And you know, I mean, I have planted different things over the years, tomatoes and other things, but I like mostly just the greens that I eat. You know, the Napa cabbage, but here now I'm gonna get the most of the yard. Like I know you always tell me you get planting things that grow well here in the summer, like Egyptian spinach and other perennial vegetables, but
longevity spinach.
I'm gonna get the most.
Spinach.
I want to plant the most of what I'm gonna use.
So you wouldn't use
the best
those.
phase of this, I don't like longevity spinach particularly, and I don't need those other greens because I have greens. I could plant longevity spinach onto any tree and have water from the water from the irrigation under the trees. So the watermelon, you can't really do that. You could, but the problem is,
well, it'll grow, it'll vine out, then you'll be stepping on it.
Yeah, you'll be stepping on it. So you want to use your space as efficiently as possible. And here is another thing that you know about.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the first year I've seen you doing some kind of composting on a bigger scale.
Yeah. So.
And there's a little dude in there helping you make compost.
I get a lot of frogs in there.
Yeah. They're eating and pooping.
Yep.
They got the best food in this area.
Yeah, so that is my my compost, and this one's empty.
And what do you use for your browns?
Well, we'll say paper bags.
Paper bags, all right, cool.
Yeah, but
I use cardboard myself, you know.
Well, cardboard, you got to be careful because of the toxic fruits.
I use brown cardboard only.
Yeah, because a lot of people use cardboards for gardening, but other than the tape that companies are using to tape them, there's still glue inside the cardboard that can get into food.
Depends on the quality where the cardboard's from.
Yeah, and when most people garden, they just get cardboard. They don't care or think about where it's coming from or what it's made with. But I use that for browns, and I have experimented in the past. For the sake of the film, I'll say I have experimented in the past. I won't say.
Well, I'll put a link down below, man, because I made videos about what you know, the other compost you used in the past.
Maybe in case any public officials see this, I might not be doing this anymore. But it's called U-manure, where you basically take your own manure and you put it in there.
Well, it gets composted in a different system first, then you add it once it's,
Well, this is the system.
Oh, this is your new system now.
Yeah, yeah, and I haven't measured this yet with the heat, but before I go to cover it, I will and see what the heat is. And as long as it gets up to a certain heat, you have nothing to worry about with any pathogens.
So you're also then using some kind of like pine shavings. Then is your browns?
I mean, I don't put pine shavings in it, but you can.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Right. So and then this one's empty, so eventually they'll go in here. I mean, when I start this one, I'll cover that one for a year, over. And then I'll switch over here. So, and a lot of people don't do that, but you're still not doing that, are you?
No, man, I haven't caught up to you yet.
No, it's a really important
thing. In Puerto Rico, though, when I'm out on the land, I just dig a hole.
It's an important thing. I think more people would get better crops and much better if they were doing it.
And they know the source of the poop they're using.
Well,
I agree with that.
Technically, there's a lot of toxins and a lot of things, but I mean, if there's I don't like to kill any animals. I love animals, but I know some people that do kill animals. But if my neighbor killed an animal and wanted to throw it in that pile, I would have no problem with that. You can put anything in there. It's all going to break down. So it doesn't matter if the stranger comes to my house and uses the bathroom, even if they're eating a terrible diet, you know, or whatever. If you put it in there, it will break down. And, you know, you might feel safer knowing where it's coming from, but I feel confident that everything's going to be broken down and the heat of the pile is going to kill everything. You know, I don't know if you agree, but that's how I feel about that.
I mean, yeah, over time, you got a proper pile, it should kill everything, yes.
Yeah. So this here is another Champa. I had an avocado tree here, but I wanted to get another jackfruit, a Champa-Jack jackfruit. I really like them, and you could freeze jackfruit. So I put this one here, Champa-Jack jackfruit. Now in my space, and there's my my sunrise mango that I planted on the other side, purposely close to the fence, so I'll be able to get some of the fruit on this side, even though that on that side is technically mine because he lets me get what I want. Here is a top-worked avocado tree that I did many years ago. This is the second year it's getting fruit, but I didn't like the original variety that was on there, so I cut it, and I don't even know where, but it's growing back now fruit. This is my, look, there's one on the floor here. This is my Soursop. Sapodilla. This is my Soursop. This is called Home Depot variety.
Home Depot. So that you must have bought that when you're doing a garden. You got excited when you seen the tree.
Most Soursop you get today will be from seeds.
I see.
Not a lot of people buy grafted, but some people will, but not a lot will. But this does great, and so I have this tree here. And now I get into spacing a little bit more. This is a Catalina avocado, and I had trees here placed 10 feet apart. But I actually changed them to 20 feet apart because as this grows, I want more space. This is another white sapote with 3 different varieties on here. So that's a jackfruit there that I top worked to another variety. Then I have this variety, and then I have this. These are 20 feet apart here. So that's the perfect space. It looks like a lot of space now, but when these things grow, it puts the perfect space here. And here's another thing I recommend people do in general is the gray water that you're using in your house do great in the gardens and planting.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
got to make sure you use the right soap, though.
You could have gray water going into your yard and just plant certain things. So it really works. So that's this side of the yard, and we have one more place called Mangoland, which maybe for the sake of time, we'll just run through that real fast and show you.
Yeah, let's do that, Paul. All right, guys, so we're here at Paul's other house on the same block. And Paul, what's going on here?
Well, this is called Mangoland. There's some other things other than just mangoes, but this house was a double lot. Most people would have bought this house so they could build another house on the second lot, but I specifically bought it because I wanted to grow fruit trees on that extra space. So it's like my house with a whole extra lot. So I have more trees here, but basically I have mostly mangoes, different varieties, and most of them are planted at different 10 feet originally, but my goal 20 feet for all of them. Besides most of the mangoes that I have here, I have a white sapote up front, a jackfruit here, and a Mamey there, and I'm starting to plant black sapotes and white sapotes here as well more. In the front here, I got a black sapote, a different variety from the one I have over there. I have Mamey Americana over there next to the acerola cherry. That's way too close. It's going to take 10 years before that Mamey Americana grows fruit, so until then I'll get cherries off the tree. And I have more black sermon cherries here, and of course another star apple Camito right here. So along this I pretty much have black sapotes along the whole front and sermon cherries. Same reasoning, foot traffic and so on. And some black sapotes and white sapotes in the front, but the back I would say is 95% mangoes. All the different Florida variety of mangoes, and still even then moving, taking down, top working, just experimenting with the different ones to see what works best for my environment and my goals.
Awesome, Paul. Yeah, so let's sit down and do a quick interview, man.
Okay.
All right, so now the pleasure of interviewing Paul Nison, who you just got a private tour from today of all his different fruit trees on his main home property, and then we talked about his secondary property just down the street. So Paul, you know, it really was apparent to me that as we walked around, you repeated about the same 5 different types of fruit trees. You repeated like mango, avocado, Mamey sapote, chico sapote, the white sapote, And oh, the star apple I think was another one of your favorites. Maybe we got a few miracle berries as well. Well, he also has like jackfruit, Champa-Jack, and maybe like a few others that I'm missing out. But it seemed like you had a lot of those kinds, but like different varieties. Yeah, like I don't even know, like you got 60 kinds of mangoes, you got 5 different kinds of white sapotes, a few different kinds of chico sapotes, and all these things. So, you know, we're here in South Florida. You could grow like so many different kinds, like hundreds of different kinds of tropical fruits. Why do you focus on like maybe less than 10, but having multiple kinds of each?
As I was saying, my goal is, for me, is to get the most food in the most efficient way for the longest time throughout the year. So if I get Sapodilla, one tree, that's only going to cover one part of the year. If I get 5 Sapodilla trees, I can cover most of the year maybe, or at least 10 months out of the year. Space-wise, if I had all the space I could need, I wouldn't do it this way. I'd plant 1 of every tree or 5 of every tree, depending on how much space I have. But I gotta do it strategically because of the space I have. So Chamba, I had 1 tree with the little berries, but there are different varieties of that. But what are those little berries gonna do in terms of giving me production more than 1-2 weeks throughout the year? It's not worth it for 2 weeks of something. Even though I kept 1 of those just because the spot it's in is not, I'm not gonna plant anything else there right now. But if you told me there's a new variety of a tree that I already have that'll fruit when those don't, and I'm looking for space, that might be the one to go that's there now that's only giving me fruit 2 times a year. So I did a lot of research on this and looking at how well the fruit grows, how much does it produce, and the different varieties to extend the seasons. I don't know any tree that I don't have that'll fruit to achieve those goals that's worth having for my goals.
I see. So it seems to me that, you know, I just want to understand, you're basically growing to have like higher calorie food on your property, right? So like a lot of the fruits are higher quality that you can actually make a meal out of, like a mono meal, and you want to explain what that is because a lot of people may not know.
Sure. Well, when I eat food, my goal isn't to eat snacks. My goal is to eat a meal. So for example, if I eat a Mamey, it's going to fill me up. I could eat not even 1 whole Mamey, it'll fill me up. It satisfied me. I have a Sapodilla tree, which isn't my favorite. It's my favorite, one of my favorite tasting, but it's not my favorite tree because, and this is why I already took some out and I'd consider not having them all, because if I need 5 Sapodilla trees to get 1 meal, space.
And how many Sapodillas is a meal for you?
Well, you can't even get there because let's see, they're different sizes, so it's hard to tell. But
so the normal
a lot of Sapodilla tree might have 100 on there right now. Maybe in the last week, 5 or 6 had fell off that were ripe and ready. So if the tree was double the size, so what? I have 10. I mean, I could snack and eat 2 or 3 of those a day and not get full or anything. It's just like a little candy snack. But how many would it take me to get full off of it if they
10,
just that
15?
You know, I do like them. If I make a fruit salad, I could have that in there. And the main reason I still have the Sapodilla is my son absolutely loves Sapodilla. But if it wasn't for him, I'd probably replace that with another variety of something I have that fruits. That's going to fill me up already.
I see. So to me, if I'm getting you right, you want something that'll like ripen enough of quantity so that you can eat all of that same style fruit in 1 meal without making a fruit salad.
Yes. Some people's goal might be to just say they grew a particular fruit or to get the flavor of a particular fruit every now and then. Again, if I had 10 acres, that would be my goal too. But with what I got, I want to make sure when I go to a tree, the tree's there for a reason other than looking good and giving me a flavor. I wanted to have a meal.
So a meal in terms of caloric density so you can feel full.
That's going to satisfy my meal, yeah.
Yeah, so I highly respect Paul's goal and producing more food so that he doesn't have to buy food from the grocery store and not growing all these little, what he calls snack fruits. Me, on the other hand, I love snack fruits, right? Even if I have small space, like in my property in California, I have these like little sweet gomi fruits that are this. Paul would have ripped the tree out after like one harvest. He's like, you can't eat these, they're kind of bitter, can't make a meal out of them. But I just love working in my garden, and that fruit produces fruit like about for 3 months. So for 3 months out of the year, I could go up that tree, maybe pick them a little bit unripe, pick them more ripe, and then even more ripe after that, and then they start dropping on the ground. And you could also freeze them, and then I just like snacking in the garden, eating like 20 or 30 of them. Then I'm like, oh, I had enough of them, and then I'll work some more, and then I'll go to like my mulberry tree, which, you know, actually those kind of ripen up all at once, and I could definitely make a meal out of mulberries.
Have you heard of Jamaican cherry?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they taste like...
I could make a meal. Well, Jamaican cherry is a little bit hard because you need more than one tree, because you could get a lot, but I don't think, unless the tree was huge, you couldn't, and then they'd be so high up there. Maybe if you shook the tree and all the ripe ones fell, you could eat a lot of them. Captain Crunch tree.
Yeah. That's
one of my favorites, actually. And actually, Paul ripped his out, and I'm like, it was tall, and they grow easy, and they make lots of fruit. And for me, that's like, I want that stuff. But, you know, once again, what are your goals? What is your context? You know, do you want to eat more off your property, have calories from your property? Then yes, doing what Paul is doing is absolutely correct. And that's actually the best way to do it. Don't do what I would do, because I'm growing more for taste, flavor. I want, you know, fruit salads and eating a little bit of this, going back to gardening, and then going to that and snacking and stuff. And yeah. You know, and if I use some space up, that's what the space is. Of course, my main use of space is for the greens, of course, that I could have year round, that I do literally make a salad of or a meal of, because I pick a little bit of this green, a little bit of that green, a little bit of this green. I mean, this time of year I could walk around my garden, pick 30 different kinds of greens and make like a huge salad, right, and eat it. So I got a meal that way, but then I got to also have some nuts and seeds and blend up my dressing with some tomatoes or peppers or some kind of, you know, oranges or something with some nuts. So then I got a nice meal. So we're just doing a little bit different. So what are your goals? I mean, you know, and what can some of the goals be? They could be eat for a meal, eat for a fruit salad, eat to say they just grew it, you know, eat for like a rare crop that like nobody else grows.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that they just want to say they grow something that's
like
hard,
a durian, for example.
Something that's hard to grow, yeah. So I know you went to another friend of mine, and he just wants to grow things that are challenging. There are a lot of people that collect like Avocados, as they want to grow all the different varieties of Avocados to say they're growing that. When it comes to mangoes, some people just want to say they grew it, and they'll grow them right next to each other. They don't care. As long as they get one, they're satisfied. There are other people that their goal is to make money, so they'll grow just a fruit that they might not even like, just to make money, because that's the best selling fruit or something like that. So there are these different goals, and some people can have a combination of these goals. But another thing is, the reason why I have the trees I have is a lot of the fruit I have you can freeze. So even though
storage, you want to grow fruits that are storing good. Easy.
Yeah, so like bananas, mangoes, soursops, white sapotes, mamey. All of these could be frozen.
And you freeze them whole.
You freeze them whole.
Wow, that's impressive.
You could freeze them, and then you could eat them throughout the year. And you can't do that with some other fruits. So, you know, we can't grow an apple here, but I wouldn't if I could, because you can't freeze them, and it doesn't make, yeah. So,
yeah, you'd have to dry them or do something else, because they don't freeze well. They'll turn all brown and all this stuff.
Yeah, so those are the different things to consider.
All right, cool. All right, Paul, so we talked about your trees and all your amazing trees. They look so healthy. So actually, what kind of nutrients or fertilizer or organic matter, or, you know, what are your growing practices so that you could have healthy trees? Because literally, this is like sand.
Yeah, well, certain trees also, that's what to consider. What's going to grow best here? So certain foods or certain trees will grow better here in South Florida in sand. If you go down to Miami or go down there, they have coral. It's no sand, and they got literally had to drill a hole to plant a tree. It's crazy down there. So the trees tend to do better up here, but your sand still has to have good nutrients in them. This whole yard's been mulched up many times. The soil's pretty good, but I don't use any fertilizer once the trees reach a certain height. And yeah,
no compost tea, no rock dust, no ocean minerals.
Only when they're starting out, I might use stuff, but everything's already past that stage. Once it gets out of the pot and in the ground.
So you're more like a natural gardener. What about all the compost you make?
Unless the tree's having trouble, I pretty much don't use anything.
Wow.
The compost that I'm using, I was using on bananas, but I stopped doing bananas for the most part. I was using them on bananas. But now I'll use the compost to fill the garden beds, mix them up into my own mixture when I do plant in the garden beds.
Wow, so and do you use kind of any beneficial microbes like to enrich the soil, or you're just like whatever happens, man?
With the regular soil?
Yeah, well, when you plant, do you use any kind of mycorrhizae, any kind of beneficial bacteria?
When I plant a tree, nothing. When I plant a tree, nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Wow, so he doesn't even
You don't need to down here.
You don't need to do anything.
Not down here with the trees, not in my area. I mean, mangoes grow like weeds down here, really. They hardly even need water. So
yeah, actually, you
mangoes
don't want to
grow
give your
super
mangoes
simple.
actually any nitrogen actually.
Yeah, well, the nitrogen thing is maybe when they're younger they'll grow faster if you give them nitrogen, but as they're getting older, nitrogen's a tricky one because a lot of people don't know this. They hear that they should have nitrogen in their fertilizer and everything else, but it makes the tree grow great. But I don't want to grow a tree. I want to grow fruit, and so I try not to. I don't, like I said, I don't use anything. I would if a tree was struggling, and I would call my friends up that know about this stuff. They would tell me what to use, and I would use it. I haven't had that issue.
Wow, so you don't even fertilize anything. You just get them in the ground, and then they're going to do what they're going to do.
They need water.
They need water, and then they're going to have to find their own nutrients and figure it out.
The water table is pretty low here, and they find out it's Florida.
Wow.
It's a tropical environment.
Wow, that's one way to grow, man. It's easy way. Easy way, not gonna deny that. So the other question is, how often do you water?
In this yard, I have irrigation. I don't water my mango trees once they get to a certain height. I pretty much don't water them. Right before they're about to, they reach a certain stage, I'll water them for about maybe 6 weeks to a month. It's just so they don't fall off the tree. When you water them right at the right time, it keeps them from falling off the tree.
So once they start fruiting?
Once they get a certain size on
once
there.
a certain size fruit,
yeah,
so
once
they don't
get a certain size.
stress out.
Yeah, other than that, I don't water the mangoes at all, unless they're first in the ground. If they are, I'll water every day. The other things, the irrigation comes on every day for the other trees.
For all the other trees, they come on
about
every
15
day.
minutes a day for the white sapotes, jackfruits, and avocados.
Wow.
Now remember, 6 months out of the year is rainy season.
So you turn it off.
I don't even turn it off then, but I could.
Well,
but I definitely see stress when they get no water, unless so next door I have I don't have irrigation on some of the trees, so I have to go and hand water them 3 times a day.
3 times a day.
If they're not mango, 3 times a week.
So I mean, we covered the basics, right? What do you add to a planting hole when you plant a fruit tree from a pot?
We just spoke about that. Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Wow, just the sand. You dig a hole, then put the sand back in, put the plant back in.
Yeah, I mean, I try to use as much soil, if not all of it, that's in the pot.
Right,
That's
and
important.
that's it.
And also, when you take the sand out of the hole, try to put the same sand back in. That helps.
Wow.
But there's not much you need to do here. I mean, I don't know how it is in Puerto Rico, but
I mean, I don't do much. I do a few things.
yeah, water, sunlight, and good air exposure. The sunlight and water are really the main 2 ingredients you need, kind of like our bodies.
And what pests have you dealt with the most, and how do you deal with them?
So when I originally planted the trees, there were these little white bugs. They like to go on the black sapote trees and stuff, and you could just take them off and pinch them. The white sapotes get a caterpillar that eats the leaves. They come quite often, so you got to take them off. And that's all we really get here. The mangoes are another story. Mangoes, most people spray their mangoes, even if they're doing it so-called naturally or organic, they spray sulfur and they spray copper. And last year I sprayed copper, not sulfur, but it did okay. This year I sprayed sulfur, not copper, doing okay. And besides that, I never sprayed, and I always did fine. So my goal is not to spray, but if I don't spray for years and I see the tree's not doing well, I either got to replace the tree or spray.
So it seems like to me you have a more natural approach to gardening. Just let nature figure it out, and it'll be all right.
That, and also I do want to do what's most efficient overall and healthiest, but it's easy not to spray.
Yeah, it's easy not to spray.
So if I could not spray and get enough food, wonderful. But again, if I find I'm getting 1 mango off a tree because I didn't spray, if I want to keep that mango tree, I might have to start spraying. And then I'll look for the most natural things to spray. But if I get 100 off something and because I sprayed, you got to weigh out the differences. Is it worth it or not? And again, if my goal was only to sell fruit, definitely it'd be worth it if I was commercial gardening. If it's for me to eat fruit to sustain myself, 1 fruit's not going to sustain me. So at that point, I either got to use something more natural or spray, or get rid of the tree and put something else there.
Yeah, and actually on this point, I would actually agree with Paul. You know, also on my vegetables, I spray water. You know, when I got bugs on it, I spray high pressure water, blast the bugs off. I mean, I'm very resistant against spraying anything on my babies because I'm gonna end up actually eating them. I mean, he's eating the fruit, they still got the peel on them, but I'm eating like the greens and stuff. So like, I don't even like to spray organic things on my crops. Let's see, when's the last, I can't remember, last time I sprayed was like, I mean, if it's so bad, I just like rip the plant out and plant the new one. I mean, it's a lot easier to do with a vegetable plant that's like 2 months old than a fruit tree that's like 10 years old, and you're like, man, it's got a lot of bugs. What do I do? You know, so yeah, just replace if it's so bad, and then maybe ask yourself why is it bad? Do you have like poor soil conditions? Is the plant unhealthy? It's being stressed out because you're not watering enough? Is it too sunny of a spot? Does it need a little bit more shade because they're too young? Yeah, there's a lot of factors you could fix, you know, and that's maybe why the plant's stressed out, and then stressed out plants that are not healthy attract the bugs and the disease and stuff. So, you know, my goal is always to have the healthiest plants possible. So Paul, if you had to share like one tip for people that are watching here in South Florida, after all these years you've been growing fruit trees, what would you tell them?
Well, some people find this hard to believe, and it's something people probably don't talk about in your channel, is as much as I love gardening, and as much as time as I spend in my garden, and I don't want to create a problem where I missed a week and something messed up, spending more time with your family is more important than gardening. And, you know, I have to forego sometimes some things and use the time with them instead. And it's not as perfect as I would want it, because my time is very precious and my time with them is precious. So like you see my trees, under the trees, they're not mulched and they don't have this, there are weeds growing there, some of the barks.
Yep.
You know, I can make this yard 24/7 every day of the year look
it could be perfect,
but I'm sacrificing the time to do that. And of course some people say, well, why didn't you hire somebody to do that, which some people do. But then I'm sacrificing time working to pay somebody to do that. So I want to use my time as efficiently as possible. And there are little things like that that make a difference. So I love gardening. It's a big passion. Family's more important, you know, but food's important. Sometimes I think if I didn't own a house and I lived with a place, or even if I didn't, I lived with a place that didn't have a yard, it would save us a lot of time. But, you know.
But then where would your food come from, man? You'd have to buy all the food. You have to work harder to make the money to buy the food.
So there are trade-offs.
And the food would be very poor quality.
Yeah, there are trade-offs. And I think about all of it, because here in Florida, believe it or not, from a cost standpoint, anywhere, it's starting to change, but owning your own house is usually the way to go cost standpoint. But from a stress standpoint, if I own a house and there's a hurricane, I'm stressing. If I'm renting, I'm packing a suitcase and say, see you later, I'll be back next week. So you got to weigh all those factors in when you talk about overall health and things, because you got to stress about money and living paycheck to paycheck if you're renting a house for like $3,000 a month, whereas if you own it, it's going to be cheaper. But the other stress that I just spoke about, or something breaking, you got to think about. So you got to weigh all that out. And when I consider all that, I consider where I'm buying my food. I don't know what they're spraying on my food in the store. I don't know where it's coming, where I'm putting my body. So that's why I'm choosing to take the extra time to grow my food, which is a trade-off. But I don't want to do that so much where I neglect my family and my time with them. So, you know, you all got to prioritize. And I know you'd like to have a family one day and children, but right now you don't. So you have a lot of time
to dedicate.
When the time comes, and by the way, everybody, ladies, he's okay. But when the time does come, you're gonna probably spend less time in the garden, and happily. Now you're happy, you know, happily. So it's you might cut your garden in half and say, well, I'd rather make this spot to play ball with my kids, which seems like crazy now. But when your kid's like 8 years old, you might say, I want to have a catch with him in the yard or something. So that's something to consider, the whole picture, you know.
Thank you, Paul. I think the other thing is that, you know, you have the whole team. You have a family team. You know, you get your wife out with your kid. I mean, your kid came out and you want to actually join in the video a couple times during the filming right now. You could bring them out and they could all pull the weeds underneath the trees, and you could do that as a family and make it out of some game or something like that. So, you know, that's another way you could still spend time with your family and get the gardening done. So let's think about it more creatively, right? How can we spend time with the family and do gardening and incorporate them and get them back to nature? You know, your kid was running around without shoes on, he's grounding. I mean, it's definitely good to expose little children to the nature and stuff so that they can have a stronger immune system, all these things, you know. So yeah, I look forward to the day that I have a partner and we have kids and we are all gardening together outside is the goal. So I have to find a partner that loves gardening and being outside.
For you knowing what you know and just growing your food and everything else, how has somebody not watching the internet, some woman out there who always says they love doing this stuff and they would love to do it, how have they not just like follow you around and said, I want to get this guy because he's a good guy, you know, growing foods and just like the lifestyle I want to live. Some things are like bewildering, like how that.
And it's hard to get a hold of me. Like I don't have a cell phone number. Really, you can't get a hold of me. No, my mom can't get a hold of me on this trip. Like I have no cell service actually on my cell phone. So
there was there's a guy I watched called Peter Santinello online, and he interviewed this guy Titus who lived off land, off grid, no shoes, very unique guy. And Peter has a very popular channel, and he was single, and he said, I would like to find a wife, and through the video he did.
Wow. I need to be on that guy's channel.
Well, I actually, my wife found me through my videos.
Wow.
And, you know, your wife's watching right now, maybe.
Maybe?
Yes. And so, so all of these are things to consider. You know, one thing is, like, I used to spend all morning, the morning time here in South Florida, that's when you want to do. You're going to learn this in Puerto Rico.
No, I do. I get up really early, and then I work in the morning until I get too hot. Yeah. Then I take a siesta break in the midday and like eat, and then in the middle of the day it's the hottest, and then in the afternoon I go out again. Evening
and morning. You don't want to be outside gardening in the middle of the day. So for me, morning's valuable. But in my schedule, I love to go to the gym and exercise, and I love to go and do things. But the only time I can do that, fit it in my schedule, is during that precious morning time when I should be gardening. So I used to be in the garden a lot between like 6 and 8 o'clock. Now I'm not here as much. And when my kids are sleeping, I might be exercising at the gym or something like that, or you know, or doing something like that. So trade-offs, all trade-offs.
All trade-offs. So Paul, if somebody wants to learn more from you, but also all the amazing farms and gardens and nurseries and people that you visit, because you are very well connected here in South Florida, you like to know everybody, how can they learn more and watch your amazing content?
I have a website, well, it's a website, but a YouTube channel called Fruitful Trees. Fruitful Trees, and you go to fruitfultrees.tv, and you take it to my YouTube channel with all my videos, and under my videos are links, contact links, and also links for everyone. And if anyone wants to contact me, my email is paul@rawlife.com. You can contact me there. I have a health channel called Raw Life Health Show. Pretty much, I'm all over social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and I'm just trying to get the message out as much as possible to the things that we've both learned over the years, because we certainly learned a lot.
Wow, maybe that's why your wife was able to contact you, because you just give out your email address, and I'm like, I'm never going to give out my email address on
So the
on
right
YouTube
woman
video,
knows about him. She just hasn't how to get in touch with him. I can't even get in touch with him sometimes.
Yeah. I don't even answer his message. DM me on Instagram, and hopefully if Instagram doesn't filter it, I'll see it.
Yeah, he does check his Facebook messages.
I do, yeah, if you do, message me on Facebook, I will check it eventually.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't want a woman who's on Facebook. So that's another thing to think about.
All right, enough about me, Paul. So last question for you actually is, I bought some fruit trees actually this trip to bring back to, you know, Vegas and Puerto Rico. Actually, vegetables in Puerto Rico, fruit trees, actually vegetables in Las Vegas, fruit trees in Puerto Rico. What nurseries do you recommend? Because I told you where I bought some of my trees. You're like, oh. So what nurseries are the best in the town for the best prices and the best quality? Because you know them all.
I make videos at all of them.
I know.
And, but I don't want to exclude one for you. They're all excellent. But if you're down in the Homestead area, LauraFarmsMiami.com has a tremendous amount of varieties of each foods. That's why, I mean, I really
that was my number one stop, actually.
They look at not just the food, like I was saying earlier. Somebody might hear Soursop, but this guy has different varieties of Soursops and black Sapote. So LauraFarmsMiami.com. If you're looking for great deals and great information, YouTube content and learning, Sleepy Lizard.
Sleepy Lizard.
Sleepy Lizard Avocado Farm. They're pretty cool. And there's just a ton of places out there. If you want to buy fruit in the mail, there's different places. Up here in the West Palm area, again, if you're looking for varieties, different varieties, Zane's World has a tremendous amount of varieties. If you're looking for a great selection on mature trees, there's a place called Jack and the Beanstalk Nursery. They have a great selection of a whole bunch of different fruit trees and things like this. And so many nurseries here. and I do videos. I go around pretty much most of them to do videos. So really good stuff. And I know later I'm going to say I should have said that one because they have great stuff there. But if you want to get like mangoes, there's a West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, and Homestead. There's different places nearby. And more and more people are starting to ship trees in the mail and also ship fruit in the mail. So that's really exciting because, you know, unless you were down there in Florida, you couldn't get a lot of this fruit.
Yeah, you're not ever eating. I mean, or you got to fly out here during the season, actually, like I did.
Yeah, but now they'll ship it right to your door.
It's cheaper to fly here.
Cool. Yeah. I have, you know, that's another thing to consider. Years ago, I was planting in my garden because I used to. I'm really into growing greens. I'm really into sprouting, and there's only so much you can eat, and you can't freeze greens.
Yeah,
so,
we didn't show your sprouts inside.
So, but basically, I planted carrots here one year, and my neighbor who knows a lot about gardening, him and I both plant a garden every year, and enough sufficient for us to eat. That's the other thing.
Yep.
We can grow a lot, but my goal is if it fills me up fine, I don't need to make it too complicated. But I planted carrots, and my neighbor said, "Why are you planting carrots?" I said, because I use them, and he says he doesn't use his space to plant carrots because you can get organic carrots so cheaply from the store. And we know it's great to buy, to plant your own.
Grow your own.
But when you're talking about efficiency,
opportunity cost.
when you're looking at what's the best things to grow and so on, like why would you, and it's different, like bananas are cheap in the store, but they taste so different.
They taste garbage.
But carrots, you know,
are pretty close tasting.
Yeah, so we gotta consider things like that and think about what we're growing and so on. Yeah, just making things according to what's going to be most beneficial and efficient for you
and your goals.
And your goal. And you're going to find when you go to Puerto Rico and plant more there that things are going to be different than where you are in Vegas.
Of course.
And you know, and we learn, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that or that. You know.
Yeah. It's a fun journey I'm taking in Puerto Rico. A lot of things are planted out. I'm planting new things every single trip. And I see what makes it and what doesn't with no irrigation. That's the fun thing, no irrigation.
You could use less out there because there's a rainy season and a dry season.
I have zero irrigation. There's no plumbing on my property. So if it don't get rained on, it ain't getting watered.
Yeah, well, there you go.
At present time until we get it in.
Then in that case, by the way, if you don't have irrigation and you are living there, mulching is very helpful.
Of course.
So my banana trees, I used to use my compost on my banana trees, and mulching is just really helpful if you're not going to use irrigation, especially like when I'm planting a mango tree without water. I'll put a good amount of mulch on it. So that really keeps the moisture in.
Good point. Thanks for giving me that point, Paul. I'll start moving some of the mulch underneath my forested area and start scooping that out and then bringing that to my newly planted out areas. Yeah. Actually, I hadn't thought of that before because there's so many other things to do.
Always.
Then I can stop string trimming, which is mostly what I do.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what's going to happen out there. And
yeah, we'll have to have you out one of these days, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with tropical fruit trees and just everything growing tropical fruit. It's really amazing.
My first durian, Paul. When I get my first durian, I'll call you up.
Yeah, you can grow durian out there. That's absolutely amazing. You know, but it's really cool if you plant enough stuff like at home.
You'll be successful. It's like a percentage game.
What percentage of food at home in Vegas, even though you're not hardly at home, what percentage of the food is from your eating versus what you have to buy? So
I mean, most of my calories I still buy because I'm growing greens. Greens are very low in calories. You know, if you say what percentage greens do you buy, I'll say, I mean, I grow 90% of the greens I eat. I need to buy like 10% because it's like mostly romaine lettuce. 90%
of the food you're growing at home.
Of the greens, the leafy greens.
I'm talking about overall, how much percentage of your diet are you growing?
It's tiny, man.
Okay.
25%.
Okay.
25%. Because I'm not growing. We're talking calorie-wise.
What about growing fruit trees in Vegas?
Yeah, so I have a lot of fig trees, and I could have meals of figs because I got 20 figs along the wall in 15-gallon pots, and when they're ripe, and I get 2 figs off that, 1 fig off that, 0 figs on that, and then I have like, 15, 20 figs, it's one meal, it's good. And that's like, I think I went one day as a challenge. Like, I'm only eating what I grow on my property today. That's all I'm eating, nothing that I bought. And I could do that. I can't do that every day, but I could do it like one day.
Do figs grow well in Vegas?
Absolutely.
In the ground?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why are yours in pots still?
Because they're this far apart, the trunks, and they're in pots because I'm not planting them that close in the ground because that'd be crazy. And it's right next to the fence, and I don't want the roots going under the fence and messing up stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, so And I got them for a penny at Walmart on clearance. And
How
I'm like,
often do you water them in the pots?
every day.
Every day.
Because they're in black pots. It's Vegas. It's 100 degrees every day. It evaporates every day. And yeah.
How big are the trees?
Oh man, the trees are like, let's see here, give an example. They're like, see the top growth? Maybe
Yeah.
like right there.
All right, about 7 or 8 feet.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
some of them are pretty tall. I mean, some are a little bit shorter, some are about 6 feet. But yeah.
Here's a tip in Florida that I've learned is if you're growing in pots and you don't plan on moving the tree, but you just want it to grow in a pot,
So probably prune it.
cloth pots are better.
Oh, cloth.
Yeah, cloth pots.
They
are
dry
better.
out way faster.
They dry out faster. You have to water them more, but there's less chance of getting root bound as well.
Oh, yeah.
And they breathe better. It's just better. Now, they're not good if you want to move it. It's easier to move in the black
yeah.
pots. But most people I know that have grown big fruit trees here successfully use the cloth pots. So it's
Yeah, I mean, mine are growing through the bottom of the hole of the pot, and then they root in the ground, and they go into my raised beds, which is, I saw that happening, and they're probably like root bound, and like I don't have room for them, so I'm gonna start selling the ones and start replacing, like intermingling with like vegetable plants, like, you know, in between each.
I'll tell
each
you
one of
something
them.
interesting here in Florida that I do that a lot of people don't think about is I don't grow. I mean, vines. I don't grow vines. I don't
yeah.
grow passion fruit, and I don't grow the
Sweet
vines.
potato vine.
I don't grow vines, and on purpose, and I don't. And I'm getting away from bananas as well. But vines and bananas are a good amount of work. And the vines, especially if you're planting tight and close to the fence, vines, once they catch onto the tree, it creates a problem because it's a lot of work to keep them off the tree.
Yeah,
they
no,
take over. I had muscadine grapes, I had passion fruit here, and it was a lot more work. So it's a lot less work without those.
I found that in Puerto Rico, like all the wild vines that just grow up all my bananas, man. I'm just trimming them, and you got to like do it each one at a time.
Yeah.
Takes a long time.
I mean, I do have vines growing here, watermelon vines, but that's
different.
That's different.
They're
but
not aggressive.
Vines and bananas are just, without even the vines, just bananas in general.
They're more laborers.
They're very laborious because each time you harvest a rack, you got to cut
and then
them down.
it falls over. Then you got all the brown leaves to deal with.
It's a good amount of work, and you get a lot of food calorie-wise. I don't know, a tree that'll give you more food than bananas. Think about that.
Yeah,
Calorie-wise, bananas will give you 3 or 4 racks a year. You know, and that's on one. You know, maybe even more. So, you know, they're a good food calorie-wise, but goals-wise of not spending my time in the yard all day to take care of it.
You
gotta
see,
weigh the thing
that's
out.
one of your goals is to spend more time with your family. See, I like to spend time outside, so I'm like trellising my sweet potato vine up the side of my house on a string trellis, and that's like I got to train it. And it takes like maybe 15 minutes to walk down the whole row to like train each one. Then I got to go down my water spinach and then train that up to grow vertically. I mean, that's just part of what I'm doing.
Thinking, because I'm saying when your wife that's watching now finds you, you're not going to have time to do that.
Well, hopefully we could do it together. We could do it together and we could chat.
I know you're thinking that she'll be doing it or you'll do it together, but she might not be. So
right, we might not be. I agree.
So she don't want to be out there in the heat.
Then I'll hire somebody to do it.
There you go.
All right, Paul. So I think our time is coming to the end. We shared your YouTube channel. We shared some tips that you guys should be considering. I mean, I always have fun with Paul. Oh, and the other thing I want to share with you guys is that the first day I got into town, I did a tasting with Paul with his crazy mangoes. These are some of the best mangoes that I've ever had in my life. And I'll definitely put a link down below. Well, hopefully he puts it out by then. Our tasting video where you see me and Kailash, who I brought in from Puerto Rico, so he can taste some of the amazing fruits from Florida here and also bring back trees in his luggage tomorrow, such as actually the Miracle Berry fruit tree I got from Paul today. So Paul sells Miracle Berry fruit trees. I'd definitely recommend them. Definitely one of favorite crops. Freeze-dried Miracle Berries sell for a lot of money, and they could literally make lemon water, taste like lemonade without any sugar.
You gotta get a black Surinam cherry.
The black, I gotta try that. Yeah, I could grow those down, and so I'll do the Miracle Berry when they're ripe, and the black Surinam cherry. It'll be like, oh.
Yeah, it's so good. You don't even need the miracles; they're sweet.
Right? Yeah. I've had those in San Diego for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so yeah, link down below to that video with the tasting, which is completely amazing. So if you guys enjoyed this content or more videos like this, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also, be sure to share this with other people that want to learn about growing fruit trees in South Florida, as well as the amazing fruit tree orchard and food forest that Paul has planted here on his property. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes. I've coming in 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up, what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as many videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. Past episodes are all full of knowledge. Over 17 episodes at this time on the channel dedicated to teach you guys all about how to grow your own food at home. So with that, my name is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.